Okay, and I'm almost ready to go. Well, I'm up at 8:15, even though it's not like it started. So here I am. Let's get this show on the road. Right, so I'll be going in about 2 minutes. There's always just those last minute things. You kind of think you've got everything ready, but you know, there's little things, like sometimes I've got this reflection on my table from the wall at the back of me, and it really interferes with video recordings, and I forgot to cover that up. I'm just doing that now. And yeah, I hope you find today's show interesting, give you something to do for Halloween night. I was being an old grouch just a moment ago. I looked over the balcony and I just saw everybody having a good time. Tons of kids and adults just in costumes. And it's like, oh, Billy no mate's there. But my plan is finish the show, get my skates on, literally go into town. I'm going to skate there 6.5 kilometres. Dry up in the Friends Club and get boogie in. See if I can see my Russian hockey there again. Right, let's have a look. Just about a minute to go. Right, yeah, I think I'll flick over to the intro and then I'll kick off. So, let's do this. I think people really know the true hypnotic power of television. You know how it pulls us in and just keeps telling us to consume, buy, and tells us to hate each other and separates us and causes the greatest divides, all under the name of entertainment. And every time I turn on my TV, it's just like no surprise. It's all of those programs and they're pushing out lies, and in between there's the adverts and they do it again, and they're trying to convince us that we're friends, and they have us trained like good little soldiers. 1, 2, 3, 4.
They say we're going to spend $1 trillion this Christmas, believe it or not.
Watch again, slow motion. See how mild and good tasting a cigarette can be. Doctors, watch it again, slow motion. Watch it again, slow motion. Watch it again, slow motion.
What face do you pull when you first come on? Hi, I'm the OBG, and welcome to the Halloween special. As you can see, I decided to shoot this one tonight in my local park. There's a giant pumpkin in there, and that makes it more Halloweeny. I almost done makeup, but I didn't. I don't think my chat's working. Could someone just type a message in, please? Just anything, and if you want. I don't want to remain anonymous, and I can see if that works. I don't think it does, so I'm going to have to remove it, I'm sure. Just ironed out a few things. Spent the last... well, I was up at 5:30 this morning. That's going to have to go off. See what I mean about the desk? Picks up the green screen at the back, and... where's this side? Dark. Okay, and then this side, I think I'm trapped. I think both sides are killing me. Right, let's get there now. Bit of white there. Don't like the edges of white, to be honest. Right, okay. So, hi, I'm the OBG, and once again, preamble, this is a show about the people, by the people, for the people. And it can work if you contribute. So please send your stories, things you want me to cover, images, videos, even your music to obgchat@gmail.com. And together we can do this. And once again, the aim is to create a show that grows until we have regular viewers that we can pull away from the mainstream for 10 minutes every day. And that would be a measure of our success. So... Okay, superb. Everything seems to be working fine. If there is anything, yeah, I'm well, thanks. Just simply let me know in the messages and I'll see it eventually. So, it's that time of year. Happy Halloween. And I'm not a total killjoy, even though I do like a moan. But I also enjoy a good party, ceremonies, festivals, and almost anything that involves people having a good time. So, my head holds many memories, many good memories, you know, from outright fun to being terrified. And I enjoyed all of them, you know, when I was a kid. I remember once I was told that if you look in the mirror after midnight, then you'll see your future old self. And I tried it, and I didn't sleep for about a week. I think I was about 11 or 12. But there's all the good times. Before everyone was snowflakes, you'd be apple bobbing, you know, like dropping a load of spit into the same bowl with about 50 other kids. And no one died. And then there was a rumour about a razor blade in the apples that spread around in the United States and then crossed over to here, that some psycho was putting razor blades in the apples and causing damage. So let's talk about Halloween. That shouldn't have happened. Okay. Where's my Halloween graphics? Let me take that off. And let me put this on. Okay, that's fine. So every year, Halloween is a holiday celebrated on October the 31st. And the tradition originated with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. And I have to remember to pronounce that right, because Samhain, they actually spell it Samhain. And it loosely translates to summer's end. And it was a time when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. And even though the true history is a little blurred, it's been told that communities, God bless them, no government intervention, no taxes or licences, they would gather at the end of the harvest after rounding up the animals from the pastures, and they would make time to commune with the dead. And folklorist, yes, it is actually a title, John Santino, he actually says that Halloween provides a safe way to play with the concept of death, and that the people could dress up as the living dead, place fake gravestones on their lawns, and engage in activities that wouldn't be tolerated at other times of the year. But, as usual, contrary to this, Nicholas Rogers, who's a history professor at York University in Canada, he states that there is no hard evidence to support the claim that Samhain was specifically devoted to the dead or to ancestor worship. So, however many of these experts we listen to, there's always going to be a contrasting story. But many of them do believe that All Saints' Day and Samhain actually melded into one due to their proximity, because it was actually Pope Gregory III who expanded Pope Boniface IV's Martyrs' Day to include saints and moved that date to November the 1st, and that was just one day after Samhain. And the festivals, which were very similar to each other, with bonfires, parades and people dressing up in costumes as saints and devils, you know, took place in both. So I'll talk a little bit later in a rant about costumes and the appearance of stockings and high heels, but do stay tuned in for that. Anyway, Halloween eventually moved or grew in America, and it was originally mostly ignored in New England because of their rigid Protestant ethics there, and it was very slow to pick up. However, a common claim is that with the influx of Irish immigrants in the latter part of the 19th century, the adoption of their festival and celebrations increased. Once again, we can see that the immigrants bring life to dull countries, and well, they're all immigrants in the States, but in my experience, the Irish do love a party, and they are counterpart to the West Indian immigrant brothers who have very strong ties to them, and we formed bonds in the UK, and that was mostly due to nationalism. So, all the same, by the 1920s and 1930s, Halloween has become a secular but commonly community-centred holiday. And by the 1950s, it had become a holiday with festivities mainly aimed at the young, and trick-or-treating emerged as part of these festivities. And it is not fully ingrained into the American culture. It hadn't been yet. But as it grew over the years, it's become one of the biggest holidays of theirs, and they spend up to $6 billion annually on Halloween. So, as an aside, a quarter of the candy sold in the US is purchased for Halloween. So, when I was young, There we go. No, wait. Okay, we were treated to a very special movie, and that year was 1978. And I forgot about this until I just done some research, actually, because I was 14 when the film came out, but I didn't actually see it until I was 18, and I thought it was new then. But that was back in the day when we used to have videos, and although it was possible to get a pirate movie, it was very difficult in the early days. And those were the days when cinemas actually had film ratings which were like X, double A, and U, and these were classified as adult. They were X films, young adult, and you had to be 14 to see a double A. I remember sneaking into some when I was 12 and 13. There was parental consent, that was an A film, and there was a U, and that was just anybody. I think I missed the trick there with the A, but never mind. And there was there's no sneaking in nasty into your bedroom like many kids do today because of the internet and lax parenting. And it's not totally the parents' fault, but they fail to understand the technology and its possibilities, and they mostly believe that their kids are playing Pokemon, Minecraft, or like using Wikipedia for study when they're actually working up a lava watching Pornhub. And I'll be covering the current state of access and porn for both adults and kids in a future show. But let me just show you the trailer for the movie. It's just under 2 minutes long, and then I'll tell you just a tiny little bit about it. So this is the trailer from re-release in 2014.
Halloween night. A small American town.
Come on out.
Halloween. The night he came home.
Okay, so that was Halloween, and that movie actually starred Donald Pleasance. He was fantastic, perfect for the role. Jamie Lee Curtis, and she set off the whole screamer, like teen slasher kind of genre, and Tony Moran. And the story actually centered around Mike Myers, who, when he was 15 years old, was sent to an institution after murdering his sister on Halloween night back in 1963. Anyway, he escapes from the mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, for those of you who remember it, Illinois, to kill again. And it was a simple premise for a movie which delivered on many accounts as a horror thriller, but we've become so accustomed to films nowadays. You know, you can turn on your telly at 6 o'clock and there's people being slashed and swearing and so on. And it's making me sound like I'm a bit old-fashioned, because I am. It happens to everybody. But we didn't have access to those films. So my very first horror at the cinema was Friday the 13th. And it was scary. Even that, like, ending after the credits had gone up, and many people actually missed it, where I think his name's Jason as well, is it? He jumps out of the water, and we see so much of it now that we're just used to it. It doesn't work anymore. And also there is an age range for enjoying films like that in the main. They kind of get us between, I'd say, 15, 16 and like 25 years old. We love those films. We love the thrill ride. And speaking to some of my younger friends and family members, they can just sit there and watch a horror film. And all of us older members of the family, my older friends, are like, oh no, I don't watch horror anymore. So there has to be something in it. So let me get back to the main story, and I want to talk a little bit about spending. I can see a moan coming on. So the information I'm going to talk about now, I got that from a site called MuchNeeded.com, but I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest, because it's one of those Amazon partner sell websites, and they claim to list a top 10 of many items in many categories, and each item's got a link to Amazon, which they earn commission on. And I have a sinking suspicion that they haven't tried any of the products that they rate. Anyway, with the commercialisation of Halloween increasing, it's become one of the largest spending holidays in both the United States and United Kingdom, with over $9 billion being spent in the US and an estimated $320 per person spending in the UK. These figures are from 2017. But I'd imagine there's been an increase as we accelerate towards oblivion with this consumerism. So in the US, it's estimated that 64% of the population will celebrate Halloween, with an average of $86 being spent per person. So here are some interesting figures on a breakdown of spending in the US. Sorry, there's a fly in there. It's not doing me much harm, but it does bother me a little. 3.4 billion will be spent on Halloween costumes, with men spending more than their female counterparts, with average purchases of 96 and 77 respectively. And I don't think that's just because men buy more. I don't know, but I think men's stuff's more expensive. You go down any high street, you can see women's shirts. I'm like £5. A really nice dress. I think 12 quid for that. And for blokes, everything's so bloody expensive. We purchase less, but that's not the point. So candy or sweets to us in the UK, an estimated candy sales in the US for that year were around 2.7 billion, making it one of the top 3 largest portions of spending dollars for the Halloween holiday. On average, most buyers will spend $25 each on candy for the season. Decorations always come in, and it appears that Halloween celebrators enjoy decorations as much as they do candy, and they're expected to spend around 2.7 billion each year on these items as well. 2.7 billion. Greeting cards, and while not nearly one of the top greeting card holidays of the year, many people still purchase greeting cards for family and friends to celebrate Halloween and spend around $400 million on these purchases. It wasn't easy for me to find US figures, and we're quite UK, America centric, so I decided to go with them. Right, okay. Costumes are similar in both the US and the UK, and the top costumes of 2017, and it's carried on superheroes, princess, animal, Star Wars characters, witch, pirates, ghosts, vampires, zombies, villains, fairies, and vixens. So right, that's it. I hit that button one day. I hit that button first time. So there's also been a steady increase in sexy costumes in the UK. But more on that in a little while. And I'll be having a rant in every show about something or the other, I can guarantee that. So I'm not a killjoy. I'm like a party just like the next woman. But it says a lot about our society and ourselves. When we can muster up the money to throw at extravagance, yet fail to support good causes because we refuse to think rationally about changing the world, or refuse to think, about finding ways to distribute some of our wealth. And I was taken aback at the prize at recent Euro Millions lottery, which went to one person, and I think it was something like 190 million. And we could have a different payout system in which a person with all 6 numbers gets a massive payout, then payments for people with 5 numbers and then 4 numbers. And I imagine more people play the lottery knowing that they've got more chance of winning a prize, even if it was just £100. And no doubt there's some maths behind it all, and I haven't looked that deep at it, for people to get 5 and 4 numbers, but I know there is a way. So many of us can actually afford £1 a month, and in many cases £1 a week. So imagine a percentage of the population paying that into a single cause each month or week. And, without a doubt, it would help to alleviate a lot of problems. And that's if we continue to live in a system with fiat currency in which money is printed on a whim, to suit fake bankers and the banking cartels that issue and actually control it. Let me just sidetrack for a minute and let me talk about money. So I'll be covering this in full in the future. With money, all debts are satisfied by one or two things: a payment and a promise to pay. And every payment is by substance, and every promise to pay is accomplished by a currency or paper, which is technically known as a commercial lien. And if the debt is satisfied by substance, something material, then it's called paying the debt. But if the debt is paid by a written or printed promise, money, promissory notes, then it's called discharging the debt. All debts are paid and they're only discharged by currency, pound notes or other commercial liens. They're actually called commercial liens. So this thing we call money is either substance or paper. And substance includes real property like land, precious metals, gold, silver, copper, gems, or anything that we consider has real and lasting value. Paper money declares a debt or obligation and promises of demands for payment. And all such evidence of debt or obligation are technically known as commercial liens. And such notes include currency issued by the Bank of England, cheques, drafts, which are conditional cheques, and notes of exchange, which banks use, between themselves. So, every note issued by the Bank of England is a commercial lien on the bank. A personal cheque is a commercial lien on the bank account of the maker of the cheque, and a draft is a cheque with a conditional agreement that is printed above the place of endorsement on the back of the draft. This will all make sense in a future show. So, like, a note of exchange is a commercial lien between banks consisting of one bank demanding payment from another bank, and a personal cheque, while passing between banks, is a note of exchange. Even a cash register receipt used to obtain a refund from a store for faulty goods, signed and handed to a cashier as proof of purchase, can be used as a medium of exchange by that store to obtain a refund or more, products from the same store. So bear with me. Bank accounts are supported either by substance money or by paper money or by both. The substance money is called collateral, and the paper money can be currency, for example, pound notes, a loan of credit from the bank, or cheques or other paper money, such as commercial liens, received from other sources. And a debt, which is satisfied by substance money, is said to be paid where we exchange tangible goods for another. A debt which is satisfied by paper money is only said to be discharged, and most debts in the United Kingdom are satisfied by the use of currency, cheques or other paper representations of value of a debt to be paid, or in other words, they're satisfied in the main by commercial liens. Therefore, most debts in the United Kingdom are not actually paid, they're only discharged. Once again, I'll do a video on this in the near future. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. We spend money on many useless things, yet we refuse to give up £1 a week or month and pay much higher than that each week to the corporations that tell us to buy their products, meaning we get we get the use of some rubbish for a short while, and they get to furnish their yachts. People pay £2.50 daily for a 5p cup of coffee, and it still puzzles me and slightly annoys me. And if you ask those people to skip 1 cup a week and donate that money to, for example, the OBG show, you saw this coming, didn't you? That wasn't a lead up. They choke on their mocha chocolate. But I'm looking for executive producers, by the way, to fund the show each month. And I've been funded for the next 3 months by 3 executive producers. That's Martin, who wants to remain anonymous, another Martin Madden, and Mick Roach. And they've supported me as executive producers for the next 3 months. So now an executive producer hands over the money, that's it, and you get your name up in the credits as the executive producer of the show. You're the people who fund it. This is a show that don't promise any return. It's not an investment. It's about supporting the show. So if you want to support the show regarding funding or know somebody who does, moving forward, contact me on obgchat@gmail.com and see what you can do. If you want to donate even just a cup of coffee for me one show, I don't drink coffee. If you want to donate, so I can get water, forget that too. I drink tap water. Just so I can buy some cables, so I can pay some people to get work done and so on, then it would be a great help. Let's talk about that. So, sexy Halloween costumes.
There's a man who contradicts. Wait, he's the type of guy to you. There's no first place, but he's part of a race. Eyes lie, but take a look inside. They mirror the sights you'll see.
Right, I remember, I'm going to take this off as well, by the way, because the chat's not working. Where's my chat box? That's gone. Okay. I remember when Halloween was a children's event, and they dressed up in scary costumes and went trick-or-treating. But I've seen a shift from the innocence of youthful pastimes to the sexualisation, which I'll describe shortly, of Halloween, which can be seen in the costumes. And this may seem trivial to those of you that just believe that everything is just fun and we just live these hedonistic lifestyles throughout our existence. However, just as much as we aspire to achieve greatness, we must be careful not to fall low from grace. And this isn't just targeting women and their dressing, so I'll get back to that. And the transition from scary to sexy will have a negative impact on women, in my view. To me, there's no doubt that the objectification of women in the workforce is apparent in many of the costumes. And taking a recent look at Halloween costumes for women, all I saw was sexy versions of something like a sexy fireman, sexy nurse, sexy doctor, all like work clothes. And the portrayal of almost every single occupation as sexual is unlikely to contribute to women being taken seriously, in my view. And over the last 50 years, the women's movement has been a key driver to increase the status and significance of women to promote equality. However, these sexually suggestive costumes defeat the purpose of the women's movement and generally depict women as sex symbols. And once again, this doesn't apply to all women because, there are women who will disagree with it. And, what's sexy, I'm saying that the image that you can see now, women may find that sexy. Maybe men don't have to take off as much clothes. But I'm suspicious, once again, that we have this image of women having to be naked to be sexy, and that's being pushed upon them. So, okay, that was from a general perspective, and I've, also seen those views being put forward by both men and women. And now, in opposition to that, who is to decide what women wear, and why do we have to say it's necessarily a negative thing or even sexual? Many women state that they should be able to wear what they want for their own sense of fun without intervention, and I agree. However, well, first, let me divide sexualisation and how I'm using it here. Sexualisation is to make something sexual in character or quality, or to become aware of sexuality, especially in relation to men and women. And it's linked to sexual objectification. And according to the experts, or those that create these definitions, it occurs when individuals are regarded as sex objects and evaluated in terms of their physical characteristics and sexiness. And in the majority of studies, it's been shown that women are portrayed in a sexual manner much, much more than men. And this relates to being dressed in revealing clothing, body postures or facial expressions that give the implications of sexual readiness. They also state that women are objectified, which means that they're seen only for their body parts or as decorative objects instead of the whole. And this in turn enforces unrealistic standards of beauty, as many young women in their time attempt to emulate these models of femininity. And they also lay claim to the notion that it's damaging for young women's development during the time that they are forming their identities and coming to have an understanding of themselves as sexual beings. So if we focus on our bodies, it strips us of agency and competence, and it increases our perception of experience, meaning that we actually give over self-control and action to emotion and experience. And it is that which always encourages me to point my fat male finger at the sudden change from scary to sexy presentation of the Halloween costume. So, let me and others know what you think by leaving a message here or by contacting me as obgchat@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can catch me on Sunday, where I'll be concluding the Greta Thunberg story, part 3. I'll be discussing the Joker and its leftist message, along with some other interesting pieces. And do tune in for that and much more. And on that note, love. I'm the OBG.
I don't think people really know the true hypnotic power of television. How it pulls us in and just keeps telling us to consume, buy, and tells us to hate each other and separates us and causes the greatest divides, all under